Allie, and this is my sidekick, Dobby, and we are here to talk about another book. Today, I am talking about Life After Juliet by Shannon Lee Alexander. Now, before I go any further, I want to give you a warning because I was actually warned about this and then I forgot. So Life After Juliet is a companion book to Shannon Lee Alexander's previous book, which was called Love and Other Unknown Variables. I definitely recommend reading that one first. I did not, and I honestly think I would have enjoyed this one more if I had. I give it 4.3 stars. I think it probably would have gotten another good half star, which would have bumped it up to rounding up to 5 stars if I had read the first one first. And you might say, like, well, it's a companion, not a sequel, so it's not a big deal. Except if you do plan on reading the first one, the very first page of this book does spoil that one. So if you plan on reading both, definitely check that one out first. I've heard good things. I definitely plan to read it, even though the whole thing has been spoiled for me. But I did really enjoy this one. You don't have to read the other one to enjoy this one, but it will spoil the entire first book. Okay, now that that disclaimer is over, if you want to go read that one before you watch this video, goodbye. I will see you next time. If you're sticking around, hopefully that means you've already read the first one, because I've warned you. Okay. This book is about, so it sounds like the first book was about Charlie and Charlotte, and Charlie is a big mathematician getting ready for MIT, but then he falls in love with Charlotte and kind of turns his world around. This book is about Charlie's sister Becca, and how once the whole thing with Charlotte is done, it leaves her kind of empty and unwilling to let other people in. So let's dig in. Here's my official spoiler warning. Everything I say after this will be a spoiler for the book, some minor, some major. So if you haven't read this yet, go check it out and then come back and watch. Okay, so let's get into the book. Like I said, it follows Becca as she kind of tries to move on from the past and the big hole that Charlotte left in her life. Losing your best friend is obviously really hard. She doesn't really want to let people in. At the beginning of the book, she's living her life and measuring her life through pages. How many pages have I read this weekend? How many pages has it been since I got on the bus? How many pages has this school day been? Because she lives her life in books right now, which I can relate to in a sense. So pretty early in the book, she meets this guy Max, and it's pretty obvious from the very beginning that something's going to happen between them. If you read the inside cover, it says that Max is the person that she finally does kind of let into her life. And I love the development of this relationship. I love how slow it is, and you can really see her fighting with herself, because she'll notice his lips, and oh my gosh, the amount of times she talks about his lips and wanting to kiss him. But then she takes a step back and she's like, no, I can't think like that. It's not healthy for me. I need to just be on my own. He can't be a part of my life. That's it. Meanwhile, I think unintentionally, he gets her to volunteer to be a techie, which is, I'm wearing black today in honor of techies across the world. He eventually gets her to sign up to be a techie, and her family is really proud of her because she's getting involved in something, and maybe it'll lead to her hanging out with people and letting people in. And then she accidentally ends up auditioning to be Juliet in Romeo and Juliet. Her parents are really excited. She isn't going to do it at first, but then she decides to do it, even though there's this rival called Darby that's trying to kind of blow up her life. Meanwhile, throughout the book, she and Max are getting closer, and he is, I love the fact that he's always in her ear helping her. Because here she is kind of stepping away from him in a sense, because drummies and techies aren't supposed to be friends, but he's there helping her every step of the way. And she ends up being kind of the link between the two groups, which ends up coming in very handy later on. But they have such a healthy relationship in most of the book, because he's helping her to step up and be the person that she can be, and at the same time, she's also pushing him to given the drawings that he is reluctant to give because he doesn't think they'll be accepted. And towards the end, she's helping him make the dream that he had really wanted to do for the show come alive. And it's a beautiful thing. At one point, there is a moment when we almost lose Max. It's this terrible moment for her where she realizes, holy crap, I actually did let this guy in, and I could lose him, and I could have this hole all over again. It's not worth it. He has other people that care about him. I don't have to be here. And she leaves him in the hospital when he's unconscious, and she does not talk to him for a week. He wakes up, he expects her to be there. Every day he expects her to be there, and she's not. And he's brokenhearted, and his friends are pissed off at her because she was his entire world for a few months, and then she just disappeared when he needed her the most. And it's the fear in her that was making that happen. It was so hard to see because I was simultaneously really mad at her for that decision, but also kind of understanding where she was coming from, because that's what she was worried about this whole time. And she finally decided to let somebody in, and then he almost leaves her. Anyway, on her birthday, which it happens to be the day Max is coming home from the hospital, she goes with her brother to visit Charlotte's grave. And in talking with him, they have a nice long conversation, and I knew this was coming. When I'm forced to put a book down for one reason or another, I like to map out the way I expect it to end. In my head, I just saw a conversation between her and Charlie, her brother, in which he said, yeah, losing Charlotte sucks more than anything, but I would not for a second take back the time I had with her to avoid that pain. And that's basically what he tells her. He says, I wouldn't take back even a second of the time that I spent with her because I was lucky enough to spend that time with her. She realizes that she needs to do the same thing with Max because pushing him away isn't making her feel any better. It's just making her lose him earlier than she needs to, and now it's her choice to lose him instead of life getting in the way, as it did with Charlotte. So they get together, and then everybody ends up working together against the evil director-dictator dude. So the techies and the drummies have to team up, and Becca has the brilliant idea to basically pull a prank to bring everybody together, because even though they were working together to get the play done, they still weren't really meshing the way you'd expect them to, and they were at odds with each other. So she has them work together to pull a prank on their director, and it's brilliant and wonderful. And then at the end, she gets this big honor for bringing everybody together and making everything possible, and it's beautiful. And like I said, I loved the fact that it was really a healthy relationship between Max and Becca, with the one exception of her having that freak out at the hospital and leaving him. But it was an equal relationship. There was a lot of build-up to it, and I love to see that in a book. I hate when it's just, all right, we're together now, done, boom, it's over. No. There was the build-up, there was the will they, won't they. There were times of her getting to know his friends as well and being accepted into their group as a friend before she became more of a friend. There was a lot of foreshadowing. One of my favorite moments is when Victor, Max's best friend, is obsessed with getting shotgun. And the first time Max and Victor are driving Becca home, Victor runs to the car and is like, I get shotgun, and the only exception to shotgun, you do not fall into that category because it has to be a girlfriend. And there's a moment where you can tell Max is thinking, well, like, maybe someday. Yeah, no, okay. I don't know, I really like this book. I don't really have complaints except for the fact that I didn't read the first one before this. Obviously in the first one is the whole thing with Charlie and Charlotte passing away, and it sounds really emotional. And I cried in this one about Charlotte without even knowing Charlotte, so I'm guessing I will cry buckets when I read that, even though I know what's coming. I definitely recommend reading this after you read the first one, which hopefully, if you've watched this much of the video, you've already done. I love the book. I would love to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments. Talk to you next time.